This is Observation. It came out a couple years ago on Epic. I had to wait until it came out on Steam to cover it. It's out on Steam. Let's cover it. I'm not going to do a full Let's Analyze, but I do want to talk about the most important points about this game because it is really quite good. There are going to be some spoilers, not huge ones, but if you know nothing about this game, you should just go play it. Or at the very least, go watch a Let's Play of it. It is really something that unfolds quite nicely, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the mechanisms they use to unfold it quite nicely. So get lost, go play it, come back later. So, what's the game? Well, it's a 2001-like. Obviously, it's not a clone of 2001, but if you think 2001, you're in the right ballpark. A space station full of astronauts goes gallivanting off to Jupiter, and psychedelic things happen. But you don't play as those astronauts. You play as Hal. Yeah, obviously they don't call him Hal, they call him Sam, but you play as the AI. This was a brilliant and very brave decision, and it's the thing we're going to talk about most in this video. You see, in most games, most psychedelic games, you really have a strong sense of normality. You know what normal is for the character you're inhabiting. If you play as a high school kid, you know roughly what sort of things high school kids will see, what they'll do, how they'll respond. So you know what their normal generally is. And obviously there can be some soft shoulders, there can be some weird things going on that might be normal to them, but for the most part, you know what a high school kid's going to encounter in the course of their daily life. So when the sky turns red and ghosts come out of the wall, you're like, yeah, okay, that's the psychedelic stuff. That's the horror stuff. This is a very crisp divide because you know what's normal and you can clearly see when things aren't normal. But what's normal to a damaged AI? That's an interesting thing to have to think about. You don't really know what's normal to Hal. You play as Hal, but it takes a long time for you to really understand what's going on, right? Because Hal is not thinking about things in the way a human does, and he doesn't experience things in the way a human does. So the line between normal and abnormal is really fuzzy, and it's made more fuzzy because so much of the abnormalities in this game are stuff that would go wrong, going wrong. Like, oh, things broke down. Oh, some of the bolts sheared away. Some of the walls vibrated apart. There's a fire. So there's a lot of stuff to do that's not psychedelic. And you suddenly realize that you've gone into the psychedelic part of the game without even realizing it because you weren't able to tell the difference looking through Hal's computer eyes. It's one of those things that's a really well thought out way to approach a psychedelic element. Hal never fully understands, arguably, we're not going to talk about the ending, but Hal, in the course of the game, never really understands what's going on. You can figure out what's going on looking through Hal's eyes, but it's very clear that Hal will never be able to even conceive of what's going on. Even as you're playing him, Hal just will never figure things out. And that is a brilliant way to create this really interesting tension. You're playing as a character that doesn't know what's going on, and the character's going to act in specific ways and behave in specific ways, and that allows them to guide you on rails, but at the same time, keep you as informed or as in the dark as their writing demands moment to moment. There's this gap between what Hal can process and what the human playing Hal, the player, can process. And that gap creates a lot of potential in the narrative. And similarly, Hal doesn't really understand what's normal, and you don't understand what's normal to Hal. So you don't really get a strong sense of where the lines of magic start and what's just Hal failing and processing and struggling. Brilliant. It's really well done. There are some complaints. I always have complaints, but fundamentally, this is an incredibly good idea, and it works really well. This is also a really fascinating choice from an execution perspective. See, here I'm wandering around inside of a hab, and you can see it's a lovely, lovely hab. A lot of effort was put into these sets. They look gorgeous. I think it's Unreal, but don't quote me on that. And it just has the right kind of baked lighting to feel like you're looking at a space station from a movie in the 80s or 70s. It's just a fantastic look. You spend most of your time looking at a computer screen, your internal computer screen, because you're a computer. This is the first time that you're allowed to look around the hab, and all you're really supposed to do is scan a few details, like this laptop. Then you'll go right back to the computer screen. And these computer screens are, diegetic interfaces. They are like oh, Hal, what's wrong with your systems? Can you do a self-diagnostic? And then you have to click on the self-diagnostic tab, and you have to click on the button and press W for a while to charge it up, and then, hold R and then click on the thing you want to report about. And it's all done internally, mostly as text and very, very lo-fi, Alien style, the movie Alien style visuals, like the screens in Alien, you know what I'm talking about. They made these absolutely gorgeous sets and then made the astonishingly brave decision to not actually set the game in them. You're always viewing these from outside. Even when you do finally get a little drone that can fly around, you're not really able to do anything besides look. That's really fun to me. They created these sets and then they held back. You don't go through the sets and grab the handholds and try and get things to work and all that jazz. No, you're the AI. You have to get the humans to do those things. It's really fun, really well done, and extremely brave. It's hard to overstate how brave it is to have your game open with a computer screen showing, a bar, a progress bar from 1969, and say, hold R or hold E to drive the progress bar up, because that's what the AI would be doing. Hold R and then click on it so you can report that it's broken. By the way, we also have these gorgeous sets that you're not going to see for a while, and even then you're only going to catch a glimpse. All told, this game is really enjoyable. When it comes to the psychedelia, this is where the game falters a little bit. I have very strong opinions on what makes for good psychedelia in these kinds of sci-fi games, and this one kind of comes out of nowhere. It's just kind of arbitrary. It works, but it doesn't build into it very well. So that's the flaw of the fact that we are playing as a machine. We don't have any fundamental connection to the emotional context of the situation. The machine can see the other characters, and the player can see that those characters have some emotional context to them. But Hal doesn't get involved until suddenly he's magically involved. And that feels like a sudden jarring change that wasn't properly earned. But if that's my biggest complaint about the game, it's doing pretty well. So, I hope you play this game, and I hope you enjoy this game. And tell me what your opinions are if you did play it. See you around.